everyone, it's Ashley, and today I am bringing you guys my monthly wrap-up. So this is my January wrap-up. For those of you who don't know what I mean, it basically is just going to consist of all of the books and or things that I read in the month of January. So we should get started. I'm probably going to be talking a little bit faster than normal because this is potentially my third coffee of the day, and it may or may not be like just afternoon, but you know, c'est la vie. Sometimes you need that much coffee. Sometimes you just do. Have any of you noticed that like the people who work at Starbucks, they just have the nicest handwriting? Like, it's not neat, but it's really nice. Like, I can't even write my name that nicely. Come on. Okay, so I read a total of 3 novels this month. I also read a bunch of short stories and or fairy tales for my English class, but I will get to that in a minute. The first book, which is actually a novella that I read, is, maybe if it would load on my phone because it was an ebook. Okay, so the first, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's like really bright. The first book that I read this month was Maybe Not by Colleen Hoover. I clearly read it on my phone. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. In all honesty, it's probably more like a 3 out of 5. Yeah, I'm probably going to change it to a 3 out of 5. I really liked it. It was super enjoyable, just like all of Colleen Hoover's books. I loved seeing the perspective of Brigitte and Warren and having like Warren's perspective on the situation. I thought that was very, very unique, and I really, really liked it. But at the same time, I just, like, in all likelihood, I'm not going to read this again, so I can't give it a 5 out of 5. And I wanted a little bit more. Like, I found like this novella was a bit too sexual. And I actually, like, the reason that I liked Maybe Someday so much was because Colleen Hoover focused on like the relationship aspect of being in your low to mid 20s and like being a person who's in university going through that like coming of age phase that you go through after your teenage years. And she did a really good job of focusing on like your emotions and like the way your brain functions. And I mean, there was some sexual aspects, but like not a lot, and they never felt forced, whereas I felt like in this novella, like, I don't know, I understand that Brigitte and Warren, like, the sexual tension is like a thing for them, but like at the same time, I wanted more emotional connection to them and less like a sexual thing. And anyways, 3 out of 5. I still highly recommend it. I absolutely loved it. It was my first read of 2015. I read it super fast and I enjoyed it the whole way through. I just didn't like it as much as Maybe Someday. The second book that I read this month was Easy by Tamara Weber. I gave this a 3 out of 5 as well. I really liked it. Again, new adult, compulsively readable. I didn't necessarily connect with the characters as much as I wanted to. I really liked the like girl power aspect of like, the main character in this book, for those of you who don't know, at the very beginning of the book, she gets sexually assaulted, and then it takes her so long to kind of just like come to terms with it, and eventually she's like, I'm gonna become badass. And I really like that idea of a girl like taking power back after that happens and being like, no, this is not going to happen to me. I am going to learn to defend myself, and I am going to kick the shit out of any guy who tries to lay a hand on me without my permission. And I really, really liked that, but at the same time, the twists in this book, I figured them out long before the main character did, and it was very aggravating. But I didn't hate the writing, I didn't hate the plot, it was kind of like, meh for me. I mean, I liked it, I didn't like love it. So yeah, it was definitely a 3 out of 5, but I would still recommend it if you're a new adult fan. The last and final book that I read in the month of January was Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. This book. I'm hoping to actually film a review for this book, if not today, in the very near future, because I really want to talk to you guys about this in depth, but holy cow. This actually took me a lot longer to read than I thought it would because it's only like 200 pages and like the font's not very small, but I was like annotating it the whole way. I was like underlining quotes and like writing in the margins and like figuring out twists and just like loving everything the whole way through. I will say a lot of people when I picked this up were like, oh, you're gonna read Fight Club, isn't that like a boys club book? And I understand where they're coming from, because I mean the book was very like boy based, and there's only one female character and she's straight up crazy, but I really liked it. Like, it's one of those books that I wish I read in high school where I could have written like an analytical essay about it, because like if you're looking for a book that you can just analyze for hours and hours and hours, this is a good book for you. I just like have so many feelings. I will film a review to talk about it with you guys because I don't want to make my wrap up too long. But I definitely gave this book, like, if not a 5 out of 5, like a 4.75 out of 5. I mean, it's not for YA readers. If you're looking for a YA book, this is not, like, this is not for you. This is also, like, this is shelved in adult for a reason. I am not a fan of censorship in any way, shape, or form. If you're, like, 14 and you think you can handle adult content, all the power to you. But if you're a person that gets, like, queasy, like, I mean, like, I'm in my 20s and I got pretty queasy during parts of this book. If you're a person who can't handle content, probably like violent content or like creepy content, you may or may not want to wait to read this, because it can get pretty queasy at some times. But yeah, highly recommend. I absolutely love this. I would be surprised if this doesn't end up being on my top 15 of 2015, and it's like the 3rd book I read this year. Okay, so those are the 3 books that I read in the month of January, but I also read a few short stories and fairy tales. I am currently in a children's lit class in my university, which I am loving, by the way. But our first kind of like genre that we were focusing on was fairy tales. So we were doing classic fairy tales or like traditional fairy tales rather, and modern fairy tales. So I read quite a few of those this month, and I will tell you guys what those were now. Okay, so fairy tale wise, I read 2 different versions of Cinderella. I read the Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella, and I read the Charles Perrault version of Cinderella, which was from the Blue Fairy book, which some of you might know. The Brothers Grimm version is, you know, cliched. It's pretty grim. But I actually really liked it. I think I potentially like it more than the common version of Cinderella that we know now. There was no fairy godmother in the original Grimm version, but Perrault is the person who kind of introduced the fairy godmother into the scenario of Cinderella, or that's kind of what we're told, because obviously I'm not a historian and I obviously didn't live back then, so nobody knows. I also read Beauty and the Beast by Beaumont, which again is a different version of Beauty and the Beast than the one that we commonly know. Pretty much none of the ones that Disney has done or that we commonly know are like the traditional fairy tale or even the modern fairy tale. Like, it's just, anyways. I also read East of the Sun, West of the Moon, which is an animal bridegroom tale, which Beauty and the Beast also is. I also read The King of the Golden River. What else did I read? Ooh, The Snow Queen, which we're all pretty familiar with at this point, by Anderson, which is long but very good. If you're looking for like a 25-page short fairy tale to look into, try that one. Just make sure you get the original and not the new children-sized ones. Ooh, Black Bull of Norway. I also read that. So that's quite a few fairy tale short stories that I read this month. I'm currently not counting those on my Goodreads list. I may or may not change that, but I still figured I would tell you guys that I read them in my wrap-up in case you're interested in reading any of those fairy tales. There is actually a free website that you can read them from. If I can find the link for you guys, I will leave it linked down below in case you want to read any of those fairy tales that I am currently talking about. Okay, so those are all of the things that I read in the month of January. What did you guys read in the month of January? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And if you have read or want to read any of the books that I read this month, comment down below and let me know. And other than that, I will see you guys soon with another video. Happy reading! Bye!